We're in the midst of the great AI awakening. Artificial intelligence will create vast amount of wealth. Whether the benefits accrue to a few or to everyone, it really depends on the choices that people are going to make. AI will expand opportunities across the world, reduce costs for consumers, businesses, and for the scientists, opening up new possibilities. AI combined with high-speed internet access can allow small towns, farms in remote regions on the planet to compete globally. So, as an early-stage investor, I'm truly excited living in this phenomena. With the rise of machines, there's also even greater human empowerment to come. Hello, welcome to LATOKEN VCTV. I'm Vijay Tirathrai. I'm your host for Founders Insight. So let's begin. For our first story, I'd like to talk about a company that's focusing on conversational AI. There's no doubt that the global pandemic has had a direct impact on commerce done today. According to research, the conversational AI market in all forms of commerce is expected to grow to an estimate of $14 billion by 2025. In fact, Gartner further suggests that by 2022, that's a year from now, 70% of all white-collar workers will interact with conversational platforms on a daily basis. How fascinating. So to learn more about this conversational AI, let's talk to Sanjay Roy. Hello, Sanjay.
Hi, Vijay. Good afternoon.
Good to have you on the show. So Sanjay is the co-founder and CEO of AskSid AI, a digital shopping assistant that helps retail brands sell more faster. Prior to starting AskSid AI back in 2017, Sanjay had spent over 2 decades in technology, holding leadership positions with multinationals like PwC, Bosch, Mindtree across USA, Europe, and APAC. With an MBA from Nederland Business University in the Netherlands and then an engineering degree from National Institute of Technology in India, Sanjay's dream to build AskSid AI into a global AI conversational company is now a reality. So Sanjay, I'm very excited to have you on the show. What exactly can you explain does AI or AskSid does to our audience?
Sure, Vijay. So first of all, thank you for having me here. Now, we all know that e-commerce is booming, Vijay, and a large part of the online transactions today are coming from first-time online buyers. So you will agree that for retail brands, it's a massive opportunity to boost conversion, but only if they can provide expert guidance anytime, anywhere to these consumers. Very hard to do that in the digital world because relatively easy in the store or physical world where there are store associates. And to bridge that gap is what AskSid is all about. Like you said, digital shopping assistants that help retail brands sell more faster.
So
now,
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, I think the last thing I just wanted to add was, the primary USP of our product offering is the fact that we do only one single industry, which is retail and consumer goods, which helps these enterprises to very quickly train the AI on their data so that they are able to meaningfully engage their consumers.
So that's a great segue into the question I wanted to ask. I know that you are fanatic about helping customers or retailers win big customers, so to speak. And could you give us a sense of the profile customers that you're serving right now and the market that you're addressing, and why now than more than ever this is of really great importance to you and the industry?
Sure. So, we are a Singapore-registered company, but our market is global. Now, within the global marketplace, we just do, like I said, retail and consumer good industry vertical. And some of our customers, I think, we are very proud of is Fortune 500 companies like AkzoNobel, which is, really a world leader in paints and coatings. Danone, again, one more world leader in foods and early life nutrition. Woolford, which is into fashion space and the like. Right now, most recently, just last week, we got a entry into Unilever as well. Right, and we're just starting the pilot as I speak. What we do for these customers, Vijay, is I go back to expert guidance anytime, anywhere. Because in today's world, it's very hard for these brands to engage consumers meaningfully and engage them, in an intelligent way. And that's the kind of precise gap that we are fulfilling for them.
Right. I know, and I noted that something that you often speak about, which is called the brain trust. And I'm intrigued by that concept. What is the brain trust that you're building? Can you explain that? What's the science behind it? And how are you able to accomplish this?
Sure. So, if I take a large enterprise, Vijay, we all know that for AI to work, you need a lot of data to train the AI on, right? Now, large enterprises have a lot of data. The problem is most of this data is not in that usable form, which can, be used to train the AI, right? Now, that's where, we come in, where we typically ingest any type of product and services data that these brands have. So product catalog, product images, PDF, CSVs, and then using our retail trained models. Like I said, we are vertical in one industry, retail, right? Our models will then help these brands very quickly curate a knowledge base of consumable information that consumers of this brand will care for, right? So generating questions and answers from text of data, right? Or generating attributes of products from images of the product, right? And then this is that AI brain that I'm referring to. Once this is done, the intelligence is exposed as APIs, powering, impactful shopping experiences across chatbots, voice bots, or to that matter, any consumer-facing engagement channel that the brand has, right? So that's essentially the crux of how the AI brain.
And I want to imagine that the model that you train, with the experience you might have, say, with the clientele in India, for example, might be relevant with clientele in Indonesia, with the fact that you are constantly adding new nuance around consumer behavior and their patterns of purchasing. Would that be correct? And I suppose with that in mind, I can see the value that you bring to business, but talk to us, what is the significance to the consumers? What is now the impact that the consumers that these brands serve, your clients serve, what is the impact to the consumers and their behavior?
Right. So on the consumer side, it's always consumers have questions. They want the answers when they are in that shopping mode, but very hard most of the times to reach the right expert on the brand, especially in the digital context, right? So I think the biggest impact for the consumer is about giving them that instant help, on behalf of the brand, thereby driving conversions and sales. The impact on the brand, Vijay, is that as more and more consumers are interacting, there are demand signals hidden in the messages that are being exchanged, most of which the brand is not even aware of, like new product ideas, new market geography expansion ideas, which is something also we pull out and give it back to the brand so that they can grow their business. So it's attacking both the sides of the coin at the same time, but vertical, intelligent, one industry.
Right. Now, India, unfortunately, is experiencing a devastating blow arising from this coronavirus pandemic. Firstly, I do hope you and your family are doing well and safe. And I guess if you can speak to us, arising from this impact economically, how is it impacting the retail e-commerce trade in India right now?
Yeah, so I think on the personal side, yeah, I'm very fortunate and lucky, blessing of God that I've been able to escape this pandemic so far. My family is fine, but yeah, the second wave has been quite a traumatic wave for us. But so far so good. Now on the impact on the business side, Vijay, look, India went through two waves. I think the first wave, which happened last year, was kind of devastating on the businesses side. A lot of startups that I know of had to wind up, right? This time, I think it's not really that big an impact, but I think, those resilient entrepreneurs who have managed to survive the first onslaught, I think it's opening up new opportunities across the board, regardless of the sector. And people are also innovating new business models, which helps people at large. So right across retail, fintech, I see a lot of new business models also cropping up coming out of the pandemic.
Sanjay, thank you very much for your insights. Great to have you on the show, and I wish you safe and all the success in building AskSid.
Thank you so much, Vijay. Thanks for having me. Bye.
So that was Sanjay Roy, the CEO and co-founder of AskSid.ai, speaking about conversational AI in the retail e-commerce sector. My second guest is going to speak about language, and particularly low resource languages, and how its benefits can be brought across the world. So let me bring on board Felix Lohmann, who is the co-founder and CEO of Neurospace. Hello, Felix.
Hi, Vijay. Thanks for having me.
So Felix, who's a co-founder of Neurospace, is an AI company that's developing voice and text technology for languages spoken across Africa, Middle East, and India, what we term as low resource languages. And we'll come into that definition in a bit. But Neurospace also offers solutions in 21 Arabic dialects, 11 Indian languages, and it's got over 2 million users every day, when realizing or not, when they use their smartphones to be their personal assistants. Felix is a researcher in the statistics, is a researcher in statistics at the Imperial College of London, where he works on data-efficient machine learning algorithms. His research has been published in world-class academic journals and conferences as well. So Felix, great to have you on board. I really want to get into the specifics of what Neurospace is doing. Can you tell us what's so special about your language technology?
Yeah, so language technology is probably everything from a chatbot, which Sanjay and AskSid are doing really well, but then also that voice interface that you have, for example, in your iPhone through Siri or Amazon Alexa. And all of these technologies work so far really well on English and other languages, which have just lots of data. And actually, Sanjay touched on a couple of these points, right? Large enterprises usually have lots of data. But then when we come to languages that are spoken across India, for example, Tamil, Telugu, or Egyptian Arabic, Omani Arabic, all of those languages have very, very small data sets. That has been extremely difficult for companies and academics to make models that can still predict really well what, for example, a user's intention is when he or she speaks to a chatbot. So we were able to crack the nut and actually make these algorithms really, really data efficient, and then use that now for the low resources, as you said, spoken across Africa, the Middle East, and India.
So if I understand this correctly, if I think of languages like Telugu, Swahili, which has tens of millions of speakers, but they don't have the luxury of access to rich database of knowledge that we English-speaking audiences have on a daily basis, correct? And so the market that you're addressing is what we term as low resource languages. Maybe you can provide some definition around that. But more, it's a term that we don't often use, but more than that, why are you going after this market? I mean, really, how big is, say, a language in India? You have Marathi, Gujarati, or Telugu. Is it really a big market that you're focusing on right now?
Yeah. So when we speak of low resource languages, it's easy to say any language that is spoken across Africa, the Middle East, and India. That's easiest to say. And very often, these languages have not even had a keyboard to type actually the native alphabet, right? So until 10 years ago, everything that has been typed in Telugu actually was then on the English or on the Latin alphabet. So it's really very recent that even people were able to type that language on the internet. And eventually, all our data comes from the internet, right? So we take Twitter conversations, we take Facebook messengers, and so on. So why we focus on these markets is because we see massive growth. So there's developing, like most of these markets are actually very strongly developing now, obviously a bump through COVID, but afterwards we still believe they're very much on the very progressive path. So across Africa, obviously, Middle East anyway is already very developed. India, strong development. Even when you look further into Southeast Asia, all of these nations are very quickly developing. So it is not yet maybe a massive market, but it will be in the next 5 years massive, because we believe that people want to use their native language when they have a voice assistant in the car, when they do retail banking with their voice. They want to speak their native language instead of English, French, or maybe even they don't speak any of these languages.
It seems to me that, in a way, a lot of the languages that you're addressing in the world is actually skipping the whole phenomenon of typing text on a keyboard to get text words on Google search, for example. Actually, essentially migrating to voice, whether it's on Siri, Alexa, and so on. That's a very interesting phenomena. And if that is the science behind what you're building, then let me humor me for a second. Why isn't Google doing this? Why are you able to build a company like this?
Exactly. So it is definitely on the agenda of big tech. There's no doubt about that. What we were able to do, what we know big tech is not able to do yet, is having such data efficient backend models that can work on small data. So there is, for example, just recently came out Amazon in, I think, 8 Indian languages. So when you use Amazon now as the app in India, you have these 8 Indian languages. Obviously, we were the first ones who tried it out. You Google for TV, you get back search results for fridge. So even these simple examples are not yet possible for such big tech companies. And there's no doubt that they will come into that space as soon as it gets commercially very interesting. Amazon is a great example. They love India already, invest lots of funds into that market. But I guess through we have already that first mover advantage, and being actually able already to build these models which are live, which you said are used by 2 million, and the next month 3-4 million on a daily basis. I think that's a very strong advantage that we have across them.
I think what's the significance that I'm taking back from talking to you is that, we see obviously a greater penetration of the internet in rural areas, for example, regions, developing countries, of course, right? And the significance of what Neurospace is doing, where English is not the first language, is really opening up new possibilities. So speak to us a little bit about the significance and impact that Neurospace is making right now. If you have a couple of use cases, please share it with us.
Totally. One specifically that is actually very close to my heart. It's from Indian use case, and it's really like related to the pandemic right now. So India is like slowly rolling out their vaccination program, and have done actually a technology-wise quite advanced solution with booking your vaccination appointment by an app. So anyone who, I don't know, you probably need to enter your passport information or so, but then you can book a vaccination appointment. However, that app was only available in English, which means, okay, all the people who live in cities who are well educated can obviously book it, but what is with the people who actually live in villages who have never even heard English, perhaps, right? So it's not only they can enjoy some additional luxury, for example, when we can implement local language text bot or voice bot for e-commerce. It's like really existential now. And we actually hope that that app will be very soon available in local Indian languages.
That's amazing.
Second point maybe is in terms of financial inclusion. So we also know that lots of people across India and over Africa don't speak English or French, and can also not have actually a bank account because of that. So we also try to work now with retail banks to open voice-based banking systems, so they can actually interact in the local language, can open accounts, can withdraw money, and so on.
I noticed that you're based in London, and you've got some co-founders out of India, and I believe on your team you've got some amazing team of data scientists, some of them who are ranked top scientists in the AI space. So speaking about jobs, I wonder whether you could speak to us about, if you look 5 years down the road, what possible jobs will be displaced? Would this technology make certain businesses obsolete? Any thoughts around that?
So any AI company that is saying they don't make jobs how they exist now obsolete, they do something wrong. That is my really, really frank opinion on that. So obviously jobs will become obsolete, especially in my opinion in the call center space. So I believe lots of call center jobs can be handled by voice bots or chatbots in the next 2-3 years. I think that's very, very likely. It may not be 100%, but at least like a significant amount, maybe 70-80% of all call center jobs may become obsolete. On the other hand, there are some people try to do specific voice assistants and chat assistants for healthcare, so like replacing your GP. I'm not sure if that will ever like become mainstream, but there are definitely solutions that do that or try to do that. But then there are other jobs created, right? So a large amount of people will be needed actually to work on NLP, broadly NLP solutions, chatbot solutions. I just like to design them to make them more human-like. We may have jobs that are chatbot therapists. We may have jobs that are chatbot analysts. All of these positions, which we cannot think of for now, will also be created additionally.
Very interesting, Felix. That's I hope that in 5 years that I'm not made obsolete, that you're not talking to a webcaster, podcaster. But on that note, thank you so very much for being on the show today, and thank you for your insights, and wish you all the very success.
Thank you, Vijay.
So speaking of investments in AI technology, and we have noticed that Microsoft, Amazon, Google will spend close to about $3 trillion over the next 10 years advancing AI. That's a massive amount of investments. And like it or not, AI will advance relentlessly at an exponential rate. So to speak more about research and what's happening in the frontier of AI, we have a very special guest with us, and his name is Dr. Mohammed Yaqub. Welcome, Dr. Mohammed Yaqub.
Hi, Vijay. Thank you for having me.
No worries. So Dr. Yaqub is the assistant professor in the computer vision department at the Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence. He's also an honorary research fellow at the Nuffield Department of Clinical Neurosciences, University of Oxford, United Kingdom. But more importantly, he has published over 35 peer-reviewed articles in top conferences and journals. So it's such a great pleasure to have Dr. Yaqub with us. And I want to start with, I know your passion, Dr. Yaqub, has been researching specific interests around medical imaging, analysis, ultrasound, MRI, and how do you take that traditional industry into more digitization? And so speak to us a little bit about this exciting area of research that you're doing right now.
Yeah, thank you. So I work on AI in healthcare application, where my team and I try to develop solutions to solve real-world healthcare problems. And it's an exciting place to work on, because we're having so many problems over the years. And for instance, we're an aging community, we have different diseases, and we need solutions, smart solutions that could help solve some of these clinical problems. And my team and I are working on cutting-edge research to develop such solutions to different problems such as cardiovascular, abdominal, neurological, and many other healthcare problems. It's an exciting place to work on because it's very challenging but rewarding at the same time.
I can't help but ask you this, that given that we're in the middle of a pandemic right now, what has the discoveries made with the use of AI in the area that you're researching on that actually has brought about acceleration in any solution that you see that we should really pay attention to?
So there's no doubt with the COVID-19 pandemic, things has been accelerated much faster than we thought it would in many different domains, and healthcare is no different. There are so many different technologies that has been created in the past year or so, which helped in the pandemic, but also in other problems. We've seen that when the pandemic started, many different hospitals, for instance, they stopped treating patients, and even cancer patient has been stopped to be treated just to focus on the pandemic. So this is a big problem, because it does mean that we have patients who could actually eventually die because they didn't have the right treatment. And with the AI technologies, we could make things more productive when it comes to treat patients in many different domains. I've seen patients who I myself couldn't take a surgery in the UK last year, which was important for my ankle, but I couldn't do that just because the hospital were overwhelmed. Can we have AI technologies which are smart enough and make us productive to solve these problems? That's the thing that people have been working heavily on in the past year or so.
So sticking to the medical theme, tell us in, say, 5 years, what can we expect as a change in terms of how treatment is delivered?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. I'll first start from my point of view of the research I do here. So I would like to see in a 5 years' time, maybe to 10 years' time, if I may, the smart technologies that could help us tell a little bit about our health. For instance, imagine yourself walking and you feel a pain in your body, and you have a little device like this one, for instance, which you can actually point to your body where you have the pain, press a button, and an AI agent within this device tells you a little bit about yourself, tells you what could be the problem. You don't have to do that to go to the hospital to get a very detailed, expensive treatment. And on top of that, this sort of ideas could help the fact that make AI affordable, because there are so many unfortunate places who don't have that treatment. They can't really afford to go to the cities or to hospitals. Even some refugee camps, they don't even have basic treatment options. So such technologies could be very influential in our future in the 5 to 10 years time.
Well, talking about maybe the impact to jobs, and if you just look in the next 5 years in particular, or maybe even stretch it to 10 years if you like, there's going to be a lot of automation, which will invariably displace some of the traditional roles in hospitals, or perhaps in the entire medical care delivery system. Speak to us about where do you think the displacements will take place, but the creation of course new opportunities as well. Where do you see that coming from?
Yeah, so I agree with what Felix just mentioned about jobs, and in the healthcare domain, we always keep saying that AI will never replace a doctor, at least in my opinion. But we always say that a doctor who uses AI will replace a doctor who doesn't. So in the healthcare industry, there might be some jobs that will just disappear, and these are the jobs that are more of a repetitive task that we keep doing. People don't have to do that, which means that also other jobs will be created. For instance, it's projected that will 58 million new jobs in AI by the end of 2020 will be created globally. A large number of them will be in healthcare. So imagine that you don't need to have a person who just carries stuff within the hospital, or move things around the hospital, or take care of these different machines. There are an AI agent that does that. Or even, more interestingly, maybe similar to what Felix mentioned about chat or voice bots for normal people, but you could have also a medical voice bot. An AI agent which you could chat with and ask some question, and the agent will help you.
As simple as asking Siri, what's the weather today?
Yeah, sort of like that. Asking an agent to say, I have a headache with this sort of symptoms, and maybe take a picture of my face, and maybe the bot also would like to send this basic voice from my coughing, and then that will analyze all this data together and actually provide you with an accurate diagnosis and treatment.
So pretty much you can assume that diagnostics at the primary care level will be, in most instances, automated and perhaps self-prescribed or self-help to a certain degree. This brings to a question around, AI ethics and standards, which will become into focus, because then who is accountable for what of the process, and could people abuse the system to whatever potential possibilities? How are we addressing this today around the issue of AI ethics and standards?
This is, to be honest, is a challenge that we all face now. There are multiple issues that we always need to keep in mind, such as bias in creating AI solutions. There are issues around privacy and issues around accountability, as you just mentioned. And on top of that is acceptability, really, or the social acceptability. This comes under the umbrella is how much would we trust AI algorithms to be part of our daily life? If we look into the history, maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we didn't have these smartphones, but they are now part of every single part of our life. They're probably more smartphone than people in the world now. So in my opinion, AI will reach to the point that actually will be at some point accepted, trusted, but there are so many challenges that we will face over the years.
Okay, Yoka, I have questions for you. I'm afraid we ran out of time, but it's such a pleasure to have you here with us today. And I know you're in Abu Dhabi at the moment, but between Abu Dhabi and London, you've made such an impact in the research arena, particularly in the medical area. Thank you for doing what you're doing, and wish you all the very success.
Thank you very much.
So I'm increasingly assured that AI will ultimately be about human empowerment, not about displacements. With that, I'd like to thank you for joining us on this week's show, and my thanks to Dr. Mohammed Yaqub, Felix Lohman, and Sanjay Roy for speaking to us today. Please be assured to join us next week for another exciting episode on the future of media. Same time, next Tuesday, same channel, LATOKEN VCTV. Thank you.